Hey y'all, it's Natalie for A Cherry on Top today, and we're focused on ink blending for Technique Tuesdays. I have this awesome stencil by Concord and Knight that's called Boho Butterflies. It has these matching dies, which it has the full-size stencil die, but it also has these adorable little coordinating pieces, and I'm going to be using these waffle flower ink blending brushes, as well as my Distress Oxides and some heat embossing ink and powder. So I have these silly photos of me and my friends. We were dressed up to go to a really fun wedding. I'm showing you that I had previously played around with the stencils and tried different color combos, and I added on those darker ones I added some glitter markers. I tried some stenciling or some Nuvo paste. It wasn't texture paste, so that's why it didn't really work out so well. But I think you could also use texture paste if you use the right kind. I did not use the right kind there. So I'm going to take some white cardstock and I'm going to use my ink blending brushes. That's the paper I'm using. I think it's from Vicky Bouton. I had already used a strip, so I cut off the branding strip. So I only can tell you I think it's from Vicky Bouton, but that is the inspiration for the colors. So I'm starting with my lightest color ink in each butterfly. And so I'm going to go in with this Tattered Rose, and I'm going to do a couple of those pink ones. And then I'm kind of picking out a few of the stripes to inspire the colors. And so now I'm going in with Bundled Sage for the green one. And so these stencils come with the top part and the bottom part of the butterfly, and then also like a pattern for the top part and the bottom part, as well as a little caterpillar inside. I'm not really sure what that's called. So now I'm going in with the bottom part of the butterfly, and I'm going to use the same color on each one. And you can see I'm kind of moving my hand around. So I blend from the bottom up, and then I kind of turn my hand and blend the other direction. And this is so I get in all of the nooks and crannies of the stencil. You can apply a very small amount of pressure and get a light color. You can apply more pressure and get a darker color. You can apply light pressure to high pressure and you can get like a gradient look. There's so many possibilities when you're ink blending through a stencil. I love it. These stencils, you don't really have a ton of room to do so, but usually when you're blending through a stencil or just in general on a page, you want to start off of the page or off of the stencil and kind of work your way into the stencil. That gives you a softer look and you don't have any harsh lines. I went in with Aged Mahogany there on top of the Tattered Rose Pink. And now I'm going to go in with Rustic Wilderness on top of the Bundled Sage. I'm just using this stamp chamois to kind of wipe off my brush in between, just because I don't want to mix my Distress Oxides, basically. I don't mind if the colors are maybe not necessarily true to those on the pad, but I just didn't want to mix my Distress Oxide colors with one another. But I love these waffle flower brushes because they have one for each color of the rainbow, so you can not have to just clean your brushes all the time, you know what I mean? And I find just rubbing them onto a stamp chamois or like a baby wipe or something is pretty sufficient. Every once in a while I'll take them to the sink and wash them with some soap, but it's not necessary all of the time, especially with these when you're staying in the same color family. So I have 3 butterflies. I'm going to do 5. So I go in with this Antique Linen because I wanted that base color to just be really light, and so I could layer on top of it. And so I'm going to layer the Fossilized Amber, which is like a mustard yellow color, on top of that one. And then I'm going to do Speckled Egg for the blue, and then layer on top with Chipped Sapphire. And again, so many possibilities. You could go through these stencils with texture paste. You could go through these stencils with sprays. You could do paints. You could do markers. You could use pens. I mean, so many options. But I really love the ink blending because it's really soft and beautiful. And then you have the dye that gives it the nice crisp edge. So I really like that combination. So if you ever watch my videos, you know that I love some sparkle. So I'm gonna, and that's another thing you can do. You can add the heat embossing ink through the stencil. But today I'm not gonna use the stencils for that. You very well can. But I'm going to use a pen and just kind of highlight a little bit of the area that I have added the darker colors to. I am going to use this scrap paper, just kind of put a little bit of heat embossing powder on in this gold glitter color that I'm going to use for the butterflies, because the dies come with the little inside part of the butterfly. And so I just wanted to kind of add that separately as a little bit of dimension. If you had the tiniest bit of foam tape, you could even pop it up. But my album is going to be so full of photos. I'm trying to kind of keep it a little bit without foam tape, like I don't want to chunk it up. But anyway, I'm using my embossing pen to just go over a few of the circles and the little bits of the darker colors of the butterflies. And then I'm going to use these awesome tweezers from American Crafts, and I'm going to hold on to the butterfly with the tweezers and then pour the heat embossing powder, and it just sticks to the area that I just used the pen on. If it does stick to little other areas, I just use a little dry paintbrush to kind of get the other areas off. I think the inside of that butterfly was probably not dry, which is why it mostly stuck to the inside of that. So I'm going to do the same for all 5 butterflies. So I just use my pen on a few areas, and so this is just another way to completely customize these. Even if they were all the same color, you could just add the embossing powder in different spots and it would look like you have different butterflies. I love that it has 3 different like sizes and like shapes of butterflies, because a lot of times when you get die cut packs, they're all very similar, as well as size wise. I like to on a page, when you do a cluster of embellishments, I like to variegate the size. So it's really great that there are 3 different ones, in addition to all the little bits and pieces that come in the dies, which you can layer on top of one butterfly, or you can just use them on their own. So this is a really versatile set, and I'm super happy with it. So now I'm heat setting all of the embossing powder, and then it just gives this really nice gold, glittery, shiny effect to these personalized die cuts. And the name of that powder is Wow Embossing Metallic Gold Sparkle. You could also do foiling. Ooh, foiling could be cool. That would be fun. So now that I have created those ink blended embellishments, I'm gonna heat set the inside this to die cut the insides out a little bit. Off screen, I also create a few more pattern papers of my own with the same ink colors to cut out that medium sized butterfly, which I have done off screen. I ran these through my Sizzix Big Shot, so you can see I have those there. And I just like did the lighter color of ink on the bottom, and then I did a stamp that gave me lines across the top to kind of mimic the lines on the pattern paper. So now I'm just using my Nuvo adhesive to stick the body parts down to these little butterflies, and some of them I'm going to add in those teeny tiny little wings as well. Or you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to add them to the striped butterflies that I created. So like the medium size. I'm going to add the little gold parts to those. But I'm also going to use some of the gold as well on their own. So I love that you can either layer them up or use them on their own. I'm just setting my stamping block on top of those to kind of stick them down. When you heat emboss them, it kind of warps the paper a little bit. And so if you just put them under something heavy for a few minutes, it'll be back to normal. So on the right side of the page, I'm going to put my title. But first, I decided that I wanted to make it have like this fun edge. So I'm just going to use my favorite border punch. It's the EK Success large scallop border punch. And I'm just going to cut down the side. And so it leaves the paper attached. So I love that I can just have this like fancy little edge to my page, because these are all outside of the page protector pages that are going to be in the 6x8 album, which I have not decided what album I'm using yet, so I'm not cutting the holes yet. So I pulled that Vicky Bouton paper out, and I just cut a couple strips, and that's going to go down either side. I felt like it matched really well with most of the outfits that we were wearing and the photos that we took. And I'm being super silly in my photo, and we were doing like prom poses and just being super silly. So when it comes to my title, I kind of was being super silly too. So I decided the title is going to be Don't Hate Us Because You Ain't Us. We were really feeling ourselves because we went to a friend's wedding, and their invitation literally said like, dress to impress, wear something that you would normally never wear, that you would love to wear, like sequins and velvet, and it was just super fun. So I'm going to use the stamp press to make sure that my alphas are lined up really well. So just like choose your favorite alpha stamp, and I use my T-square ruler to help as well, but there's also nice lines on the stamping platform to help line those up. And I'm just using that same heat embossing ink from Wow, and I'm going to use the same color gold powder that matches the butterflies to stamp the title. I felt like a little glam gold would be good. First of all, a good contrast to the silliness of the title, but also just because we were dressed up, we were glamming it. So, and you know, who needs apostrophes? Not me or this stamp set, or most stamp sets, to be honest with you. So I am going to heat set it as I go along, just so that nothing gets messed up, since I am using my stamping platform. But also, even if I was just using my hands, I would end up probably brushing it. So I suggest kind of heat setting it as you go along on each line or whatever. So we're finishing that up. I kind of left justified the title so that I would have like a little bit of white space down there at the bottom to finish up with some of the embellishments that I created. And I pulled out, let's see, what are we doing here? Sorry. Oh, I'm finishing heat setting. And then we're going to be ready to embellish. So I dug into the archives and I pulled out like probably one of Paige's oldest collection. Paige Evans had this really old collection but it perfectly matched the little stripes on this paper in our outfits. So, and the way that I had colored the butterfly. So I just pulled a few pieces of that. And it also had gold foil on it, which I thought was really fabulous to go with the gold that I had already added to the butterflies and the title. So you can see I'm using the large butterflies mixed with the middle size butterflies and kind of just clumping them together. I pulled out a little bow, and there's also like a pair of shoes in her ephemera set, and then a few words, but I decided to go with the two that are in the gold, laughter, because I was being super silly, and marvelous, because that's what we were feeling. I'm also showing you I have another picture. I'm going to put that in like a smaller page protector in between the two pages, or a pocket, sorry, a 4x6 pocket. And so I'm going to use some of those die cuts to embellish that once I decide what album I'm using. I'm probably going to go with the 49th and Market. That is in the new cherry box that's coming up, and I didn't know those existed, and they seem really fabulous. So I'm probably going to use that. We'll see. The only thing is I really love like linen bound albums or like fabric bound albums, but I might kid. They seem really fabulous, so I might overlook that. So I'm just gluing down the middle part of the butterfly and leaving the wings so that they can be kind of bent up a little bit. So when the reader is reading the scrapbook, they can kind of see like a little bit of 3D. Again, because these are outside of the page protector, that's a fun way to add interest. Although I typically do that with all of my pages, even if they are in a page protector, because the butterflies should just be flying off the page, right? I highly suggest this stencil set by Concord and Ninth. All of these layered stencils that are kind of like in vogue right now are super fun. I know Pink Fresh Studio has a lot. If you haven't tried ink blending before, it's pretty foolproof, to be honest with you. And you get to just layer your colors up. Distress oxides are very good at layering. That is my favorite type of ink to use within stencils, like layering stencils like this. So, but you can use others as well. I just don't know that they would like layer as well, because these kind of sit on top of one another. But there's all types of different ways to ink blend, and there's not really a wrong way as long as you're not creating mud. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find all the close-ups in the gallery at A Cherry on Top or on the blog. And thank you guys for watching. If you like to see this, you can move over to my channel and subscribe. Bye, y'all.